We're back, baby. Oh my goodness. Da
Yay!
da 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 da. Oh my God. We lost that delicious lounge singer from DS9. What was his name?
Yeah.
Vic
Oh, you mean you
Fontaine.
took Vic Fontaine? Yeah, that was actually, he just died today. Hi, everyone. Welcome again back to Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies. I know you've missed us. We've all missed you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe while you're here. It's actually James Darren. That's the name of the actor who passed away recently, who played Vic Fontaine in DS9. But we haven't come to that point yet. We're back here at Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies, and tonight, after our brief respite where Mike is
Brief.
now no longer perfect, my XO, it's again, this is Captain Matt Ross, and I have my XO, Mike Pontone. How are you feeling, my sick friend?
Exo Pontone, first officer here. I got the space flu. I got COVID for the third time in my life. And I got to say, first time I had COVID, pretty rough. I had it March 2020, like the very first thing. And I was like, well, that's a new sensation. And then second time, I was like, well, that's just a mere cold. And now the third time I'm here, and it is hitting me a little hard. It's been 2 years since I had COVID, and I got the brain fog, but I had some Klingon blood wine to fortify myself because this is long overdue. I actually have a lot of thoughts on the changelings. I got a lot of things I want to say to you Star Trek people about this episode.
Okay, calm down there, XO. Yes, I have
yes,
him
sorry,
safely
Captain.
I got you in sick bay, thankfully. I just came back from a nice little vacation, and yet I didn't gain a pound. How about that?
Why didn't, when they went to Warp 11, why didn't they all turn into salamanders?
Oh, my goodness. Now you're combining Voyager and TOS. He's talking in tongues, folks, I tell you.
I'm jumping around, but Captain, let me just ask one question. I'm going to do this episode all out of order because I got the space fever here.
He's got the space madness.
Is it because you're not perfect? Nomad would destroy you. Just so I could get this in, tonight's episode is the Changeling, written by John Meredith Lucas with the help of DC Fontana, and it was directed by our favorite director of the time, Mark Daniels. Remember, in this season 2, it's Pevney Daniels, so now we're back to Mark Daniels, and this is for starting in July of 1967, and this was released September 29th, 1967, as Walter Cronkite would say. But this is an episode that many people do talk about because a certain motion picture, specifically Star Trek the Motion Picture, is kind of based on this entire episode.
What do you mean kind of based? It's the same goddamn thing.
Well, that's what's actually funny.
It's exactly the same. It's a space probe sent by early humanity that got out of control and is now destroying everything. Except V'ger didn't kill 4 billion people.
No, it killed more.
No, did it? It didn't.
Yeah, it
did.
did.
V'ger actually? Who did V'ger actually kill, other than a few Klingons?
You don't actually see V'ger. Just in case those of you who are uninitiated, the motion picture is a movie that came out as Paramount Pictures' answer to Star Wars. It was directed by a very fine actor.
You're
fine
wrong,
director.
Captain.
It is.
No, it was Star Wars' answer to 2001: A Space Odyssey. Damn it.
No, I'm telling you, Paramount's answer to Star Wars when Star Trek was there. What do we got that we could make? Because Star Trek was in a weird time in the 70s. There was going to be a movie, then it was going to be a TV show, then they went back to a movie, then they went back to an idea of a TV show, and then this small movie called Star Wars came out, and Paramount panicked. What do we got that we could sell? As my ex-boss, Major Roddenberry, told me, and a whole bunch of other fans at a Star Trek convention, and has later been confirmed, so they came out with Star Trek, the motionless picture, which one day we will come to. But
They
the
really don't
story
mind
is,
it at all.
Well, it's, I've seen every version, from the loud with the alarm telling you what's happening on the screen, going, alert, emergency alert, to the new one with the edited effects and a little bit less time that one of my friends, Adam Mojo Leibovitz, worked on. So there's a whole bunch of changes between it, but the story is the same. A space probe was launched from the Earth in the latter half of the 20th century, since the motion picture was paying attention to NASA at the time, and Voyager probes 1 and 2 were launched, and they are still functioning, by the way. They made this ship the Voyager 6 or Voyager 6. In this, it was the project called Nomad, which wasn't actually called Nomad at first, but it was launched into space to find everything.
But wait,
and so it's a very similar story.
Didn't they realize when they were making the bloody motion picture that they already did this tale?
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and find out, huh? So let's go into what this story is about. First off, we've got our new head writer over here. We got John Meredith Lucas. He rewrote many different things all over the place. He was known for continuity. He wanted things to be just so. He actually directed this new actor guy named Charlton Heston in a movie called Dark City. No, not the 1988 one.
I love Dark
but
City.
A film noir one.
Watch the director's cut of 1998, Dark City. Great film. The non-director's cut is merely mediocre. Merely average. Good film.
Hey, I still have my VHS copy of that movie, which RKO Video, the old rental store, let me keep
mediocre.
Out of business. Yeah, well, you know what? I wasn't wearing my horse with teeth mask, so it'll have to do.
Oh, man. Captain gets all my references. I love you, Captain.
Oh, I love you too, Mike. But anyway, John Meredith Lucas was seen as possibly a replacement for Gene Coon because Gene Coon was burning out. But what is this story about?
Better to burn out than fade away.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you know, when you're on methamphetamine and chain smoke like Gene Coon, anything's possible.
I'm on COVID and red wine tonight.
Oh, all right. So anyway, well, let's just talk about what we got here on this this episode. There is a killer machine behind a series of space attacks tonight on Star Trek, and serious science fiction fans might find this super sophisticated tale of interest. Captain Kirk is not only faced with a mysterious machine that kills, but he finds his imagination and logic strained to the absolute limit of his ability. What he has to combat is the force of a thinking machine called Nomad, a probe that was sent out on a peaceful space mission by a scientist in the year 2002 and believed destroyed. That's the review of it, but it's rarely what we are. I actually I have many opinions on this, but I will tell you this because, again, I'm from the ancient time known as the 20th century. This was my very first VHS tape ever. I bought this for $9. Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. It was like I want to get a Star Trek, and the only one they had available was this. I said, I got to buy something for that VHS machine my dad just bought, the new Panasonic 4-head VHS VCR, which he still has somehow, and somehow it also still works. That's it's over 40 years old, but I still also have the VHS tape. Go figure that. But that was my first tape. But just go generally, what was your general impression of this before we go into detail on it? Because you have been texting me in your sickbed about how upset you are at the very beginning.
4 billion people, they don't bat an eye.
The long-range sensor sweep of this system reveals no sign of life. That can't be. The last census reported a total inhabitation of more than 4 billion people. I register no life readings at all, sir.
Scotty dies, and he's like, hey, that's my engineer. I need him to do engineering. Not he's my friend. Like, it does show you, and this is the thing I do like, okay, good echoes of future Trek. These people are military badasses. They like people. They mourn their dead, but not much. They move on. In fact, the only time when Kirk really took a death badly was Spock, and that's 30 years of friendship. And, you see that all throughout TNG. Where the episode where they thought that Ro Laren and Geordie LaForge were dead, and they were just they didn't miss a beat. There was another time when they thought that Data had died. Like, all right, we need a new second officer. Suggestions. Like, it shows that while they're compassionate, they don't fuck around, and they understand that death is part of it. That being said, 4 billion people. Give me a break. No one writes a report.
Well, what you're referring to were Data dying, that's the most toys. I can't remember the name of the next phase, that's it. That's the one where it seems that Ro and Geordie die and the next generation, but they're out of phase. Oh, spoilers on an almost 45-year-old show. This episode over here is very, by the way, similar to another episode called The Probe from The Outer Limits, which is literally the last episode of The Outer Limits, which stars...
The Probe sounds like my Saturday night. Am I right, Captain?
Yeah, but in this one, you're right. It does start off with a weird way. Just really quickly, The Probe, which stars Mark Richmond, who is later Ralph Offenhouse in the Neutral Zone in Next Generation. It's kind of funny. Probe is you could get it on YouTube if it's in your area. But this episode was written where Lucas had said he always wanted to make a machine as God. In fact, he read some book and short story by some writer named Harlan Ellison. Can you guess the name of the short story?
I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, making its 20th appearance on our podcast.
Hey, and I finally read it. It's a very good story, everyone. You should read it.
Good story.
In fact,
Skynet,
I have
The Matrix, everything.
Everything. The whole works. It's actually really very well done. Also, Colossus, The Forbidden Project, or Gog and Magog, which is a worse film from the 50s. But this
Magog was
starts...
a very good DC Comics villain who killed Superman several times. Come on.
Yes, this episode starts off with the Enterprise getting a SOS signal from the Malorians. Obviously, the Malorians have space travel or some way to contact through subspace, which is an advanced form of communication. What's also noted is they can't reach them, and they also have a science team from the Federation there hanging out. Makes you wonder, what do the Malorians have that the Federation team is trying to study? But Spock says you won't hear from them because they're all dead. And that's where you get your line. There are 4 billion people there. And like, yes, but everyone's dead now there. And it is kind of disturbing. They're just rushing over there and they're like, I don't understand what's going on. And suddenly we have our first, I guess you could say, tie-in that the next, the movie The Motion Picture steals, which is a giant torpedo coming. If you have it on the enhanced version, you'll see like a big green ball. It looks very similar to what they did in the motion picture. What did you think of that opening, though? Since you're still going on about how many people are dead.
Fine. I like that they're like, what? It's only like 1 cubic meter, and they like think it's a tiny person.
Yeah.
It's like, what? What are you guys talking about? Why do you guys? You think that it's a guy in there?
I thought that was funny, but it's like, but as Spock pointed out, like, he's saying, like, you don't have to be tall like us. He has a good line I figured I'd put in there.
500 kilos and only 1 meter long.
What kind of intelligent creatures could exist in a thing that small?
Intelligence does not necessarily require bulk, Mr. Scott.
They are being attacked, and this is where the rewrites come in, but they're being attacked and they get hit, and I find this bizarre. We just were hit with 90 of our torpedoes. Right, so my question seriously. Is, how weak are the torpedoes, or how strong are their shields? Because they fire one and it makes the entire screen, shimmer, but like they get hit by one thing and they're just like, oh my God, I don't know if we're going to be able to handle it. I always thought that was a little bit of weird.
Let's go back to this. Let me just ask quick questions. I'm going to jump a lot around during this episode. Because honestly, this is one of those episodes where like, there's the premise, and then there's the ending, and a lot of nothing happening in between. So, one, the warp... Is warp different... The warp factor classification different in TOS era than in Next Gen era? Okay.
Yeah, they changed it. They changed
10 and 11 is not modern age TNG warp 8 or 9, right?
No. They didn't. They just reclassified it, and the way they explain it in
these go up to 11.
No, in the original ones there was no limit on it because there's like I think in the animated series Spock notes a ship coming at them at like warp 17, and they have other high warps like that. The actual in canon explanation is that they reclassified the curves based on data that they picked up. And then they realized the highest they could go is warp 10.
That's warp 9.9. Warp 10, and you're everywhere all at once.
And then you turn into a salamander, and you have sex with your captain, and you make salamander babies, and you leave them.
You and me, Captain. Salamander love making. Does it work with 2 gay salamanders?
I don't know. You're really obsessed about that. You and your slash fiction again.
This episode is going nuts. It said, if you were looking closely, it said, women's brains are inherently chaotic and need to be perfected.
Yeah, that's true.
It said this about the thing. Captain, I'm jumping all over tonight, okay? Because this episode jumped all over.
No, I think it's just you and the COVID.
No, I'm going to guess the budget for this right now, if you don't mind.
Okay.
$201,000.
Well, now you're having me jump towards the end. This was actually a very expensive episode, and the main reason well, no, actually it wasn't. It was $174,700, and that included 3 versions of Nomad and the special effects.
I did think Nomad moved very well.
Yes, there were 3 versions. Just to let you know, there was one on a wire, there was one on a dolly so that you could see it go through a door, and there's one that just sits there. So they had 3 different versions, and they would cut between the 3. So just to let you know, the $174,700 in $1967 would be today $1,645,213.71. That's in 2024 dollars. Just at a point of interest, the 3 Nomad models cost $9,500, which is $89,464.97 in today's dollars. And the special effects, whether it's the shooting of that weird ray on Uhura, the attack of the torpedoes, not in the enhanced version, they were also attacked by torpedoes though, and just moving around, that cost $6,127, which is $57,700.20. But this is where we start off with a huge tragedy before we point out that women are just a mass of conflicting impulses.
Oh my God.
Yeah, am I right, guys? Anyway, so the thing that I always find humorous is, so you're right, there are 4 billion people dead, but does that mean that the Federation goes in there and goes, yeah, let's see what all the neat toys they got, and let's just take it for ourselves, for science. I always imagine, like, how are they going to be able to take all those things? In this situation, they're trying to stop whatever's shooting at them, and then suddenly Kirk remembers, hey, maybe we should try and communicate with the alien. And he says, hey, I'm Captain James T. Kirk of the United Federation of Planets, and we're here peacefully, and then suddenly the attacks stop. And why is that? Because whatever is out there, this small cylinder wants to communicate, and thinks that they are, once they are able to translate it, they are the creator, which is, again, the exact same thing that is found out in the motion picture. It stops the attack because it hears the name James T. Kirk and calls Captain Kirk his creator. And then they start on our way. By the way, that
also doesn't make any damn sense.
Well, we'll come to that. But what really doesn't make sense, the way it was originally made, besides Robert Justman saying this needs a lot more action than just people talking, because there's a lack of that here. They had an idea, or his original idea was that the Enterprise releases a hydrogen cloud and puts Captain Kirk's face on it, and that makes the Nomad probe realize that, oh my God, it's you, Dad, or Mom, and stop the attack. Although that might sound like a neat special effect, I think that would have been really cheesy. What do you think about that as an idea?
Bad.
Anyway.
I liked Nomad. I liked Nomad's look. That it was very simple.
Well, good. You'll see it again.
Really?
Yeah. You'll know it when you see it, and I'm going to point it out. And you liked its very simple look, but the original idea behind it was supposed to be called Mariner. And then it was actually called Hyperion, and then it was supposed to be a huge spaceship with one, almost like the size of a planet, and then it shoots out an individual probe, not called Ilea, but a little tiny probe to come aboard the Enterprise. But I do like it when they beam it across, and it's kind of hanging in the transporter room. You can't even see the strings holding it. I think that's really fantastic.
No, I know. I was kind of curious about that.
No.
Was it on a track?
They're actual strings.
Were there strings?
It's not like... Now,
Did they paint them out?
See-through, plastics, I believe it was. And so they were trying to hold it together
Filaments.
and wire but you just could not see it the way they angled the camera, and I thought that was pretty well done.
Very impressive.
It is.
Yeah, no, very well done.
And then you have it beam aboard, and it's like, hey, I want to see your star charts. I like the way they're talking. Oh, you think there's somebody in there? And then Scotty goes, no, it's clearly a machine.
I contain no parasitical beings. I am Nomad.
In my opinion, that's a machine.
I liked first stellar cartography. I like the star charts. I really liked the star chart part of it, where it was like, hey man, it was beautiful. It was like, hey, we're actually in spaceship and there's a navigation that we're doing.
Yeah. Originally they said they invited Nomad to the bridge, so they changed that, but they invite him to auxiliary control. I don't know about that either. I think that was probably a dumb idea, but whatever.
Yeah, no, definitely dumb ideas. It was kind of echoes of Yesterday is Tomorrow when Kirk just invites a guy from the past and turns him around and shows him around.
One day you'll get the name of that story correctly. It's Tomorrow is Yesterday. So there you go. But one day. But it's not really important because, you don't like that episode. You're lucky, you don't have any...
Correct.
You don't have anyone named, Finnegan running around. I'm sorry, Mike.
Shut up.
That's just my excuse to put in that music again. But anyway...
I do like the music.
So in the original story, they had an unknown yeoman have her mind wiped because she was whistling. So what do you think about this? You got the probe, after it figures out that they are from Earth, Kirk is like, oh, you figured it out. I do like the way he goes like, oh, you're from the third planet? Yes. The third planet called Earth? Yep. You just stay here while we try and figure out what it is.
The planet is called Earth. Yes.
But then we hear Uhura singing. That was an excuse to get Nichelle Nichols to sing. You like her singing again, beyond Antares?
No, pretty bad. And I was glad that Nomad went there. I was like, hilarious. Like, well, when is this Mr. Singh going to turn around? By the way, I guess you're only allowed to call people from everyone from Indian descent only has one name, Singh. Kanunian Singh, Mr. Singh. Like,
oh, you mean from
what
Next
about
Gen?
Patel, man?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. Well, I can't answer you for the writers in the early 80s and the late 60s as to what. There's many fine Indian names out there. I'm 100% certain of it. In fact, many of our listeners are from India, so hi, everyone. Yeah, but the guy who actually played it, he had played a lot of actors. He played, like a lot of actors, he played a lot of bit roles. He was either cast as an Indian from the subcontinent or an American Indian or a Latino, which I actually think is kind of funny. But there you go. So when Big Three are discussing what the heck they're going to do with it, we see Nomad floating down the hallway. I do like the fact that no one goes like, hey, security, there's this weird floating robot in the hallway. He passes like a dozen crew members, and no one says anything. I find that a little bit bizarre.
Yeah.
And then he gets to the bridge, flies over Sulu, and asks Uhura, what are you doing? I was singing. That's what she says. And he mind wipes her. And that's when Scotty gets all annoyed, and he gets killed when Kirk comes to the bridge. That was kind of weird, but it's, by the way, the same stuntman who did the big fall in Who Mourns for Adonais. So there you go. What do you think? No comments.
Fine. Whatever.
Originally, John Meredith Lucas had it where Nomad crushed Scotty's skull in.
Well, obviously that wasn't going to get onto NBC.
That's true. They also had Chekhov in the scene where over there, but we have Mr. Leslie wearing yellow this time. That's our Eddie Pascal, Eddie Paskey, our favorite extra crewman that's in there. So how's that? They also had a little bit too much more jokey in this, but we'll come to that in a second. But this is where we come to your line that you got all in a twist, where the Nomad erases Uhura, and Kirk said, "What did you do to this one? This person's mind has been erased. This is essentially what's going on." And the probe says, "This unit has disturbed me. Its mind is conflicting impulses," and Spock goes, "That is a woman."
That unit is defective. Its thinking is chaotic. Absorbing it unsettled me.
That unit is a woman.
A mass of conflicting impulses.
And that's, yes, your misogyny of the day. Were you offended by that, or a little silly?
Yes.
You
What do you mean
were?
Yes, of course I was. Are you fucking kidding me? That's crazy, dude.
Well, it's kind of funny in a totally misogynistic way.
It's like, hey, she's just too crazy to live, isn't she?
Yeah, that's quite true. But, he's able to repair Scotty right away, which is actually interesting. It says, it's just physical damage. He's okay. And this is where you get all upset about, where Kirk's like, you killed my chief engineer. But again, they're moving on forward. They're like, all right, take him below. We'll figure it out later. This is where we also discover, Nomad is saying, like, what its plans are. It's going to go back to its point of origin and sterilize any infections. Basically, it's going to sterilize in a very Doctor Who Dalek way, get rid of anything that's disgusting or, what it thinks is not perfect. It thinks Kirk is perfect because it thinks that Captain Kirk is its creator, not Captain James T. Kirk, but Jackson Roy Kirk. You are upset about that, I understand.
Well, what is the likelihood that he gets the one Federation ship with a Captain Kirk, and also it's a practically omnipotent, omniscient robot, and I can't understand that humans have some of the same names? What if he met a guy in the mess hall named Roy?
Well, that's a good
Roy,
point.
the angry
jerk
gumbo slinger, is going to be able to say, "Hey, kill the whole ship, and by the way, give me a flying saucer full of robotic mud women that I can make love to."
Well, that's later.
Nomad would have done it.
That's Mud's planet. But
I know. I was looking at frickin' the upcoming episodes, and I saw I Mud. I'm like, oh boy, that's going to be a fun time.
Hey, but in this episode, with the Jackson Roy Kirk and Captain James Kirk. By the way, the picture of Jackson Roy Kirk is actually Mark Daniels, the director, wearing Scotty's dress uniform. What I also find funny about that is that everyone in the past is always wearing a red tunic. Later you'll see Colonel Green. He's wearing a red tunic. Unless you're on Enterprise and you're wearing, a suit. They do make that reference to the past where Earth launched probes out into the space. And obviously the picture that they drew on the screen, which is an original drawing by Matt Jeffries, the set designer, totally looks totally different from the way it was before we see our design here. And that was also part of the problem. They wanted to make the machine light enough to carry the special effect thing, but also to look like it had weight. So it did have some metal pieces on it. It did have some styrofoam on it. And the voice you should know of Nomad. Do you recognize the voice?
No.
You don't know the voice of Control from The Outer Limits?
Oh, God, that guy was everywhere.
Yeah, he was. This is what he did. He said for this Vic Perrin, he had to do this on set because he had to coordinate his voice with the light sequences.
We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical.
But that's what that is. But that's non sequitur, I suppose, as Nomad would say.
Non sequitur. Your facts are uncoordinated.
They do realize that there seems to be something wrong. No Earth probe was ever sent out to sterilize. And that's where Kirk gets the idea of saying, let's have Spock mind meld with it. I thought that was kind of silly. Don't you?
No, I thought that was cool. And echoes of future Trek, where we had Spock mind melding with a whale. Like he could, and what do you mind melding with Voyager? Are you kidding me, man?
Well, I'm just saying mind melding with... Yeah, I understand. I always thought it was silly that you could mind meld with a machine as well. But I guess you could explain it away saying that Nomad was an intelligence, like an organic being. Because I always thought mind melding would work better with, organic life. But whatever, it works. It's still a little silly.
It works for Voyager.
Hey, it does... You mean V'ger?
V'ger.
Yes,
V'ger.
yes. It literally is the same thing again, where Spock tries to figure it out, and he touches the machine, and he finds out that V'ger, or rather Nomad, was actually in a crash with another spaceship called Tanru. Tanru, V'ger somehow merged together.
Hey, you got your chocolate on my peanut butter!
Peanut butter on my chocolate!
Nomad was a thinking machine, and I guess Tanru was. And they were able to repair themselves, but there was so much damage between the two ships, their memory tapes or memory banks were combined and ruined in some way, so they didn't have all the information. Yet they seemed to know that there were Nomad thinks that Jackson Roy Kirk is Captain James Kirk. So there's where that confusion comes in. And why is it always the Enterprise? It's always the Enterprise. It's the only ship in the sector. You know that. It's a Star Trek trope.
Sure. Yes. Yeah, why not?
I know. But they discover that, the machine is going to basically have to kill them all, because if it gets to Earth, they got to figure a way to stop it. If it gets to Earth, it's going to kill everybody, because humans are not perfect. Of course, not counting us, of course, right? So
And that's like a very tired trope, too, of like, well, you're not perfect. We have to make what's all perfect. Like, we definitely had seen that in sci-fi before.
that's true. That's kind of like a combination of the Outer Limits probe and some other things. But yeah, there's always
Lots of things. I
perfection.
think that Isaac Asimov had that, right? Where it was like, that was the exception to the three laws of robotics.
Now
Where
that
it's like, well, we have to protect you from yourself.
yeah, that's the zeroth law. That's later. That's later after the Foundation series. That's Daniel Oliva's idea to create the with his companion Giscard to make the zeroth law. That's actually a really good series. Everyone should take a look at it. It's very heady science fiction. In fact, Dune, Frank Herbert said his idea behind a space opera was based off of Foundation. I find that kind of humorous. Kirk also...
Good, man, I was going on a deep dive the other day about all the similarities between Dune and Star Wars. George Lucas, man, that's some bullshit. Like, you know that, like, Dune has the weirding way where you could tell someone to do something and they do it?
Yes.
And Jedi mind tricks are, you don't need to see our identification. Just let us go. It's like the exact same thing. You got the Emperor, you got the Force, except for the weirding way. You've got dueling houses. It's insane. You got royalty and princesses. You got a desert planet.
Well,
Fucking
I mean,
nuts.
there are some similarities between Star
What
Wars
do you
and
mean?
Dune.
There are like 30 different similarities.
Well, you could also find similarities between the Seven Samurai and the Hidden Fortress in Star Wars too. So
Well, of course.
Lucas borrowed from many things, including 1940 serials of dogfighting of the Allies in World War II. So there's a whole bunch of things that are right there. There you go. What did you think of Nomad as a concept of the idea? I don't consider it evil, and it's not knowingly malevolent, but its own logic deciding who lives and who dies and who's perfect. It's a little bit bizarre that a machine would be able to get that corrupted, but I never thought it was evil. It just doesn't know what it's doing. It's like a very basic computer program in a sense. Almost animalistic.
Yeah, no, not evil. I thought it was a very good character. I enjoyed it as an antagonist. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the probe in Voyage Home, where it's just like, well, it's not like evil. It doesn't really understand what it's doing. It's just kind of like following what it's supposed to be. And I do like the idea of like, I'm always down for a villain who believes that it's doing the right thing as opposed to a mustache twirling, sadistic villain, personally.
Yes, that's true.
I'm always more into a Doctor Doom than a Joker.
Yeah, the Joker is a little bit crazy, but this is that Kirk refers to it as a changeling, which is actually a reference to European folklore, not the DS9
Of
creatures.
course.
Although the DS9 creatures could be called changeling, they call themselves changelings. I like to think that's the universal translator calling them that. And I keep thinking about this movie called The Last Starfighter, because there was also a changeling in that as well. Did you ever see The Last Starfighter?
I didn't. What was it? But I'm actually, so believe it or not, put on my big nerd glasses. I am a big fan of the poetry and writing of W.B. Yeats, who did a lot of writing about English and Welsh and Irish folklore, which includes changelings. So changelings were beings that fairies would replace your children with. So fairies would snatch your babies in the night, bring them to the fairy world, live not kill them, just to live with the fairies, and they would replace them with a creature that would look just like your baby but had no soul,
And also
that
be
was
evil.
not a Christian creature.
Right.
Not evil necessarily, but just not your baby.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So, and obviously this is that because, of course, it thinks that it's his child, and his child has been corrupted and everything. But, yes, it was an interesting, I guess an interesting title.
Well, the thing that if you see The Last Starfighter, they actually have something called a beta unit, which is a replacement. So it's kind of like a Changeling. So I'd recommend you see that. Maybe we'll see that together.
Beta unit? You mean my ex-wife?
Yeah, Beta Max. No, beta unit. You'll see it. I'm going to make you see it. But the rest of the story,
Yes,
one of the big
master.
problems that you'll find in this is a lot of walking and talking. There's not too much action. Justman and Stan Robertson from NBC say, like, where's the action in this? So, like, when they kill the security guards several times, that was done for action scenes. They wanted to do something.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that was the highlight of the action. But
Life is real cheap in this episode.
I'll tell you, but the security guards, my thing of like, what are you doing type of security guards when it starts to go off on its own to head towards engineering, they go, Nomad, stop. And then they shoot it with their hand phasers. And I'm thinking, were you not paying attention to what they just shot it with? A photon torpedo is, magnitudes way higher than a hand phaser. But I guess, when you wear a red shirt, you don't always have to think straight. But they kind of deserve to die, in my opinion. At least the first set. Did you have any?
Yeah, that was just like, did you guys really think that was going to work?
Yeah, I mean, come on. This thing's out in deep space, destroying solar systems and planets, and can stand up to a photon torpedo. I don't think you're going to be able to do that. One of the other things, or I guess we could call that a WTF moment. How about the WTF moment of curing Uhura? She'll be fine in about 2 weeks.
Right, they're just going to like retrain her with knowledge. What about all her memories? Did she lose her childhood?
Well, I like to think that we could try and say, like, because she's speaking Swahili at one point when she's
Yeah.
So maybe
true.
it wasn't a total erasure. Maybe it was a kind of suppression, and that's why she was able to get back up to speed quickly. Maybe we could call it that way. So it's kind of lame.
Very strange decisions this episode.
Yeah,
with the writing.
Fontana actually cleaned this up. It was a lot worse, believe it or not. But yeah. So gotta hand it to DC. Yeah, that was kind of weird. But
do I?
Yeah, I mean, if it was worse and this is best, yes, you do have to hand it to. There were 5 rewrites on this thing. I got to tell you, it was really a long slog over here. They also tried to save money. If you didn't notice, they reused various forms of music. They used the Spock music. They used the music for Who Mourns for Adonais. They used various cues all over the place. Like when they first see Nomad, you hear the music for Who Mourns for Adonais in there. Yeah.
I did think that this was going to be a scaled down episode in terms of cost. I had only guessed 201 because it seemed like the budgets were going up in season 2, and there were a lot of extras in this.
Yeah, but they actually came in under budget. So even with the extra special effects, But I think though the best part of this is the logical conundrum that Kirk throws to the Changeling at the end, to Nomad. I think basically we could just really jump to that unless there's something else in the going back and forth, because this is a very small story. It's not like City on the Edge.
Right. Not enough happens for the runtime. It would have been a good half-hour show, but it wasn't. But anyway, go on.
Well, I mean that what a lot of people call Kirk Fu. This is where Kirk again talks a computer into destroying itself, essentially. The first one, of course, being Landru. But this one, I think this one was actually better, where he just basically says, "You're wrong. I'm not Jackson Roy Kirk." And he just walks him through the logic.
You are in error. You did not discover your mistake. You've made 2 errors. You are flawed and imperfect. And you have not corrected by sterilization. You've made 3 errors. Error.
And it makes the machine lose its mind, and they beam it out into space at the last second. I enjoyed that entire little sequence where they get their anti-gravity devices and they run it to the engineering room, and just the argument to say, like, you didn't correct your error and you're still here. What are you doing? I think that was interesting, the way they had, Kirk has written to outthink the computer. What did you think of that, Kirk Fu?
Fine. I was kind of curious how he was going to get out of this, and I was happy that he didn't do the equivalent of pulling out a pipe and hitting it. So I was impressed. I liked it it was not as disappointing as I thought it was going to be. Can we just skip to the ratings here, Captain?
Sure. I just want to point out to you in the original story, the way they made the Changeling lose its mind is they played radio, TV, movies, and music from the 20th century and beamed it into it, and then it loses its mind and explodes. I think this is a lot better.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Wait a second. That was Star Trek Beyond with sabotage.
No, yeah, that's quite true. So look at that. They sabotage themselves by reusing the same thing. So there you go.
Then.
It's really, yeah, it's a really light story over here. There's nothing really special
Very
about
light.
it. I mean, it's an okay time. I think it's more interesting to find out that there were several nomads, and really you get to that last scene. But overall, it's an okay episode. It's not something like you would go out of your way necessarily to watch, except if you really like wire work. So what would you give this on our very scientific 1 to 10 scale?
Well, I mean, listen, it's the acting was good. The premise I actually thought was pretty interesting. The timing was all off. I hate the stupid joke at the end of like, my son, the doctor. It's like, Captain, 4 billion people and like 20 of your staff. You don't have to go back to your quarters and write letters to their parents and their loved ones saying that their son or daughter died bravely and, getting suffocated by a space creature that didn't know what it was. Anyway, point is, it was fine. It was not enough story, and there were some mistakes, but it was entertaining enough and a good enough sci-fi concept, and our main characters of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy were not phoning it in. They were taking it serious because they were old pros as always. I give this a 5 out of 10.
Wow.
Right in between.
Guess what? I, too, give it a 5 out of 10. Look at that.
Well, great minds.
Yes, I'll tell you that this, I was, the first time I had actually seen it was on that VHS tape. It was never shown on WPIX with any regularity. That's a TV station in New York, which rebroadcast old Star Trek shows. I had never seen it before, and I said, oh, that's why I'm going to get this VHS tape. I've heard all about it, I read about it, but I never saw it. And I was like, that's okay. But the VHS tape told me that there were other VHS tapes out there, which I only collected a couple of them. A couple of my friends and colleagues had like every VHS tape. Now you can buy them clearly on DVD or stream them. Get the physical media. It's way better. That was basically it. I have the same issues. I have too many WTF moments in here from like the same thing you do. Like, how did the probe get to Jackson Roy Kirk as Captain James Kirk? You have the security guards being dumb. The fact that you could out-logic it with very simple logic, I thought that was pretty silly, but it's enjoyable. So that's why I give it a 5 out of 10. So good times. This character does come back again, though, sort of, or Jackson Roykirk does, in the in the dumpster fire of season 2, known as Picard. You'll see advertisements or discussions of the probe in Los Angeles just thrown on a wall. The probe prop itself does come back. You will see it again, just like you will see the Landru computer again. But they had to reuse everything. But yeah, that's pretty much about it. It's an episode. It's still fun to see. It's glad at least that we're getting back into the swing of things, even though you're in quarantine, Mike. So you got to get better. Are you going to be? I think you're going to be ready for our next episode. Hopefully, you'll be ready by that time. It's the episode that launched thousands of other episodes, specifically in Deep Space Nine, known as Mirror Mirror. So that's where, yes, where we can all get all piratey lad. Yes, it's the one with the Mirror Universe coming up next. That's on our next episode of Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies. My XO, do you have any other comments or things you want to tell our fair friends out there and our great viewers and listeners?
I feel terrible, but I'm happy that we're back, baby.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Yeah.
We're getting into the favorite season of the year. I know there are different types of folks. There are spring people. There are a lot of summer people out there who like to party. The holidays are my absolute favorite time because I don't mind that it gets cold. I enjoy being close to the people I love, including my captain here.
Aww.
And the world getting a little bit smaller. So let it come, and sadly, my holidays are now in decreasing order of preference. My favorite is Halloween. My second favorite is Thanksgiving. My third favorite is Christmas, and my fourth favorite is New Year's.
I thought they were.
But that's good too.
I thought that was all one giant holiday, according to the advertisers that we have to listen to every day. That's what it feels like sometimes. But
no, Halloween is a time of creativity. Thanksgiving is a time of relaxation. Christmas is supposed to be a time of togetherness, although it ends up most of the time being a conflict. And New Year's is supposed to be a time to have a good time, although for every New Year's Eve, I stay in and I watch The Twilight Zone with a loved one.
Oh, well, I'll come over. I'll bring over a blanket. We get some wine and snuggle. No, wait, never mind. Aren't we both
I'll
married?
send my wife
Oh,
away,
that's
no problem.
right. That's right. That's right. Wives.
Our respective wives.
That's right. A mass of conflicting impulses. That's what they... I mean, I love them. Yeah, that's it. So... Well, the next episode that we have coming up is, again, Mirror Mirror. And if you like what we're doing here, please feel free to write us at yellingatgas@gmail.com, as well as don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to get a T-shirt at one of our fine products at the T Public T-shirt store under our Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies storefront. And we hope to see you next time on Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies. And as always, live long.
Wait.
What?
No one has bought any of our shirts.
I bought a shirt. Come on, people, buy a shirt.
You ungrateful bastards. Buy a shirt. I will sign it. I will put on lipstick and give it kisses. I will take a picture in it, and then it will be yours.
I don't know.
The picture and the shirt.
Well, and
come on.
And we're not going to discount it for any defacing that Mike does on it. But come on, people, buy a shirt. Make a Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies statement out there. So we hope to see you on our next episode. Live long and prosper, Mike.
Mirror, mirror.
Yes, mirror,
Live
mirror.
long and prosper, Captain.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
That was your evil Michael Pontone for next episode.
Bye.
Anyway, listen, live long and prosper, and see you out there.
Congratulations, Captain. Dazzling display of logic.
You didn't think I had it in me, did you, Spock?
No, sir.